The year is 1789. America, fresh off its victory against the mighty British Empire, is ready to celebrate. But freedom ain't free, you know? The young nation is drowning in debt from the Revolutionary War. Someone's got to pay the piper, and that someone is the American farmer. Our first Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, the $10 founding father himself, had a plan, a controversial plan. He proposed a tax on whiskey. Now, whiskey wasn't just a drink back then, it was currency. Farmers used it for bartering, trading, and even paying their debts. Out on the frontier, news of the whiskey tax travelled slower than a molasses wagon in January. When it finally arrived, it hit those farmers harder than a shot of rye on an empty stomach. They felt betrayed. They had fought for liberty, and now they were being taxed without representation. The seeds of rebellion were sown. The farmers saw this tax as a direct attack on their livelihood, their freedom, their very way of life. They had risked everything to build a new nation, and now the government they helped create was turning on them. The tension was thicker than a barrel of sour mash. Something had to give. Whiskey wasn't just a drink for these frontier folks, it was their lifeblood. Imagine the vast American wilderness, sparsely populated with limited access to banks or roads. Farmers relied on whiskey as currency. It was how they conducted business and paid workers. Hamilton's tax hit these hard-working men and women. It felt like a punishment. Small producers were hit the hardest. Larger distilleries could afford the tax. Think about it. You're a farmer relying on whiskey to survive. Suddenly, the government slaps a tax on your product. Your hard-earned profits dwindle. Your family struggles. Wouldn't you feel unheard? That's exactly how the farmers felt. This wasn't just about whiskey, it was about fairness and representation. The whiskey tax became a symbol of government overreach. The grumbling started small, like whispers in a crowded tavern. Farmers gathered around flickering candlelight shared stories of hardship and frustration. They felt ignored, their grievances unheard by the distant government in Philadelphia. Then the whispers turned to shouts. Protests erupted across the western frontier. Angry mobs, fueled by righteous anger and, let's be honest, a bit of that good old frontier whiskey, began to take action. They tarred and feathered tax collectors, intimidated distillers who dared comply with the law, and even resorted to violence. One particularly audacious act took place in 1794. Remember General John Neville, the tax inspector for western Pennsylvania? Well, a group of rebels disguised as women, talk about audacity, surrounded his home, demanding he resign. A shootout ensued, leaving one rebel and one government soldier dead. This wasn't just a protest anymore. It was an armed rebellion. The Whiskey Rebellion, as it came to be known, wasn't just about a tax. It was a boiling over of frustration, a cry for recognition from a people who felt forgotten and marginalized. They had fought for liberty, and by thunder they were willing to fight again to protect it. News of the rebellion reached President Washington in Philadelphia. Now imagine this. You're the newly minted president of a fledgling nation, still finding your footing, and suddenly a full-blown rebellion erupts within your own borders. Talk about a headache! Washington, ever the pragmatist, knew he had to act swiftly and decisively. He couldn't let this rebellion fester and spread. The very survival of the young nation was at stake. He decided to call upon the power vested in him by the Constitution and raise an army. Think about it. The man who had led the Continental Army to victory against the British was now marching his troops against his own people. It was a decision that weighed heavily on Washington, but he believed it was necessary to preserve the Union. Washington, alongside his trusted advisor, General Lighthorse Harry Lee, led a force of 13,000 militiamen westward, determined to quell the rebellion and assert the authority of the federal government. The sight of the president himself, leading the army, sent a clear message. This was not a rebellion to be taken lightly. The arrival of Washington's army had its intended effect. The rebellion crumbled faster than a poorly made still. Most rebels, upon seeing the overwhelming force arrayed against them, melted back into the countryside. A few diehards wanted to fight, but cooler heads prevailed. Washington, ever the statesman, showed remarkable restraint. He understood the plight of the farmers and realized that excessive punishment would only breed further resentment. A handful of rebels were arrested and tried for treason, but Washington pardoned them all. Imagine the scene. These rebels, expecting the hangman's noose, are instead granted clemency by the president himself. It was a powerful gesture of reconciliation, a way of saying, we are all Americans here. The Whiskey Rebellion, though ultimately a failure, had a profound impact on American history. It demonstrated the power of the new federal government and its willingness to enforce its laws, even if it meant using military force. It also highlighted the delicate balance between government authority and individual liberty, a debate that continues to resonate in American society today. The Whiskey Rebellion might have ended in 1794, but its echoes still reverberate through American history. It stands as a testament to the enduring spirit of the American people, their willingness to stand up for what they believe in. These farmers, many of whom had risked their lives for freedom, were willing to take up arms once more. They believed in liberty, self-reliance, and the pursuit of happiness. The Whiskey Rebellion was a crucial early test of American democracy. It's a story that's as relevant today as it was over 2 centuries ago. History isn't just something we read about in textbooks. It's alive and still unfolding today. Like and subscribe for more.